Hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. This is Jeff from Fluent American with you here once more at the Schwa Mill, where every single Saturday, though not always at this time, we help you craft your accent by listening to your pronunciation files that you send us. Basically, short little sentences where we then take a look at your pronunciation of vowel sounds, consonant sounds, linking, reductions, stress, anything related to American English pronunciation we take a look at and try to give some feedback on. Okay, and let us see what we have here.
Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get.
I think, first and foremost, my biggest suggestion is probably going to be pitch related, just because I do think a lot of these, pitches are a little bit close together. I wouldn't mind seeing some of the highs go a little higher and some of the lows go a little lower.
Life is like a box of chocolate.
Because right now, life is your word that has the highest pitch, but it sounds like you're stressing chocolate. So I would maybe say, it's okay to start high on life, but I would maybe take the pitch on chocolate a little higher. Like life is like a box of chocolate. Life is like a box of chocolate. Life is like a box of chocolate. So that's another way that you could do it too. You could actually go lower. Like life is like a box of chocolate. Again, box of chocolate. You hear that drop? And just that increase of range and pitches that I'm using. Life is like a box of chocolate versus what's our original file. Just kind of pay attention to the difference in pitches.
Life is like a box of chocolate. You never
Because he's kind of do life is like a box of chocolate. So we're never really giving ourselves a chance to expand our range. So that's going to be my first big suggestion here. Let's just see if there's any other vowels or things that are kind of standing out from this part as well.
Life is like a box of chocolate.
Box of chocolate. Chocolate. That pattern there is a little bit unusual for chocolate, like chocolate versus chocolate. I would expect lit to have a lower pitch. I think like chocolate. That's a little bit unusual in terms of pitch patterns. I like your linking between is like good. That's a nice linking from your Z sound to that L. Let's see how you're doing. Box of chocolate.
Life is like a box of chocolate.
Box of chocolate. Yeah, so notice that again. You can get some linking there too. Box of chocolate. Box of chocolate. So you can get some of those linking between consonants across words, just something to pay attention to as well.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Okay, so you're stressing you never know. So you're stressing no.
You never know what you're gonna get.
See, like two thought groups there. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get. So, one thing, I don't think that's wrong to have multiple thought groups. Hello to Rosada checking in again. It's great to see you again, miss. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to send us a pronunciation file, there is still time. Again, you can check the video description or take a look earlier in the chat where we posted the link. Send in the file. And again, I mentioned earlier, Shoka said that she had heard the file before. But talking about this part again, you never know what you're gonna get. You never know what you're gonna get. I would consider, and that's not saying that having two thought groups for that section is wrong, but I would consider just having one because it's gonna let you flow a lot more. You never know what you're gonna get. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get, or you never know what you're gonna get. Like whatever stress you choose, whether you're going to stress on get or no, or even never, I think any of those could work as potential stresses. But I would just consider, hey, instead of having two, you never know what you're going to get. Like, so with two kind of clear stresses, if you just have one, you never know what you're going to get, or you never know what you're going to get. It just is going to let you really flow and link things together in your sentence. And it's also going to give you more room to play with pitches because you don't have to restart with stressed words as often. And it also is going to give your listener a little bit less work to do. Every time you're adding a stress and a thought group to your listener, you're just making their job as a listener a little bit more difficult. So every time you're cutting off those thought groups, you do tend to make things a little bit lighter for them. Let's listen to vowel sounds and things there.
You never know what you're gonna get.
What you're gonna get. Almost sounds like you're stressing what as
You
well.
never know what you're gonna get.
What you're gonna get. Yeah, so you never know. So it's not like you're stressing no, and then you're also stressing what. And I just think also for this sentence, I don't think what is a very common word to get stressed for that part. No, what unless you do like you didn't stress the first part, like you never know what you're gonna get. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. I think that can work, but I do think that's a little bit unusual. It takes me a moment to kind of make sure I put the stress on that word intentionally. So, what's not my favorite word to stress there, but it is possible. Besides that, though, there are other things here that are standing out to me.
Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get.
No, I think that kind of hits all the main points I have there. So, again, I'll read it as life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. Again, notice one other thing too about linking I did there. You don't have to do this linking. It's entirely just by choice, but like what you're gonna get when you have what, when you have that T sound on what, that links with a U sound, like in the word you. You can often link it with like a CH or like a ch sound. So that's a what you or what you or what you gonna get. All right, so just a quick note on that file. Thank you to Marcos for sending that. And let's take a look at our second one as I'm getting that ready, guys. If you're learning things from this stream, I hope that's the case. But I'm glad you're with us, first of all. And if you'd like to let other people know that you're learning from this stream too, one thing you can do is liking and or on Facebook, like sharing and things like that. I also have a quick question here. I would like to know the difference between manifesting something and materializing something. I haven't heard material. So that's a interesting question. I haven't heard materialize used with an object. Like I materialize something. Like a lot of times it's more intransitive. Like it kind of something materializes out of nothing. Like something kind of just appears out of nothing. Um, Whereas like manifesting something means like you are able to kind of like create something out of like your desire or something like that. So when you manifest it, again, that can have an object to it, but materialize is usually intransitive. Manifest also has the sense of kind of like effort or like will or desire creating something, whereas materialize, it doesn't really have any of that emotional connection, I would say. Yeah, we have part two on this, the difference between blackmailing someone and threatening someone. Yeah, I mean, the blackmailing is a kind of a form of threatening, but threatening can mean like like if I tell my son, "Hey, if you don't finish your broccoli, you won't get to I don't know, eat dessert tonight." That's a threat, but that's a different threat than like, "Hey, give me all your money or I'm going to hurt you." That's a different kind of threat, right? Um, Blackmailing is specifically when you have material on someone that they don't want other people to know, and you're like, "Hey, you have to do things for me, otherwise I'm going to tell everyone your secret, or I'm going to let everyone know this information." So that's specifically blackmailing. Okay. But good to see you again, Mr. Go Big or Go Home. Okay. Let's take a look at our next file. Send some long ones. 13, 17, 15. Let's go to the 13-second file.
The end of the movie was great. Oh, what have you seen today? I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it. Okay, it's getting late and we better get going. We don't want to make mom angry.
Okay, I'll play that again in a minute. Mr. Go Big Go Home says that makes a lot of sense. That's great. And I really like your some news. This is what happens at the end of the night when I mean today has just been crazy. So I wasn't able to put my product in my hair, and this is kind of what happens at the end of the day when I've been lying down like on the couch or rolling on the floor with my son and stuff like that. It's been this is what you get. Anyways, this was from Sycamore's file. So let's find Sycamore's audio. Oh, I need timestamps. I keep forgetting timestamps. 1903. Let's say like around 5. That way, if you're watching this on YouTube on the replay, you'll hopefully be able to find things a little easier. Okay, so Sycamore's file. Here. Great.
The end of the movie was great. Oh, what have you seen today? I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it. Okay, it's getting late and we better get going. We don't want to make mom angry.
I'm curious if this was taken from something, just from a grammar note. What have you seen today? That to me feels weird. It was like, what did you see today? Because it kind of has this feeling of that the day is already over and you're just kind of like recapping. So in this case, it's probably unlikely that the speaker is going to go see something else. So I do feel like, what you see today? Like, I feel like the simple past would be much, much more likely in this situation here. Um, it is possible to use today with the present perfect, but that's usually again with the implication that today isn't finished yet. Like, for instance, if I ask you, "Oh, well, what have you eaten today?" That implies that, today's not done. You're probably going to eat more, um, which again could work in this situation, but it's just I've never seen that with a movie. I guess because usually when most people don't see multiple movies in one day. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong on that. You guys can let me know how many movies do you typically watch in one day, if you watch a movie. But that does feel a little unusual to me. Besides that, though, some feedback.
The end of the movie was great.
The end of the movie was great. Okay. I like what you're doing was great. I like your pitch change. I like going up. It just adds a little more extra emphasis and kick.
The end of the movie was great.
And you're also building up to kind of building down, which is good. You want some movement and pitch. Like the end of the movie was great. Like the end of the movie is great. The end of the movie is great.
The end of the
I'd maybe consider a lower pitch for the A lot of times goes lower. It doesn't have to. You could certainly have a higher, but that is something like instead of like more the end of the movie was great.
The end of the movie was great.
Does get a little choppy on that end of the movie, that part there. See if you can hear that.
The end of the movie was great.
End of the movie, like I think it's that of the linking. So that could be a place to kind of smooth things out so that V can really kind of slide into that TH of the. And in case you're finding it difficult to do, what I'm doing is I'm using the tip of my tongue and I'm pressing it against my bottom front tooth so instead of the. See if you can hear a difference between mine and his
The end of the movie was
of the movie. Do you hear that? Of the movie, the end of the movie, the end of the movie. Another option too could actually be where you just instead of saying of the, just like other movie. So you can actually take off the V. Especially if you do it fast enough and reduced enough. So instead of saying the end of the movie, more the end of the movie, the end of the movie, other movie, other movie, other movie. So I'm just saying movie. So that could be another option that would smooth that out a little bit as well.
Oh, what have you seen today?
And again, we talked about this earlier. I would say, oh, what you see today? What you see today?
I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it.
A little flat there.
I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it.
Like there's not really any emotion in that. It's just very flat. Like I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it. I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it. So if you want to just add more emotion to that, I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it. Can you hear the difference in emotion there? I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it. One of the things I'm doing is I'm adding more pitches again. I'm sure you're not into it. It's like again, we went high with sure, and then everything is dropped down. Sure, you're not into it. So that's one option there. Other things.
I'll tell you, but I'm sure you.
It also kind of moves fast.
I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not.
I'll tell you, but I'm sure versus like, I'll tell you, but I'm sure. So like you have some opportunities to kind of play around with your stressed words and kind of play around with the duration because again, this is another way you can also kind of convey some emotion and things like that. Because otherwise, it just sounds really flat. One thing again, just an option, not something you have to do. I would consider a held T on late. Since it late, you can really hear that T sound.
Late and we.
Yeah, late.
Okay, it's getting late and we.
It's getting late versus it's getting late. So I'd consider a held T sound there so you're not letting the breath escape. So I said late, we're just late. It's getting late.
Okay, it's getting late and we better get going.
Yeah, I would again also play around pitches like better get going. Again, because we're staying very restricted in terms of the range. Better get going versus like we better get going. Going. So maybe having that ing syllable drop more just to add again a little bit more contrast. We don't want to make mom angry. We don't want to make mom angry.
Going. We don't want to make mom angry.
We don't want to make mom angry. Another way, yeah, that might be another way you could actually hear that said, like, we don't want to make mom angry. Like that's kind of like something that like you say it knowing that everyone else would agree with you. Like we don't want to do this. You all know that this is a bad idea. We don't want to make mom angry. You know, like something like that. Which again, you could also amplify by stressing mom. As just another alternative. That's not the way. That's not to say that what you did was wrong. Okay, I'm gonna play that whole thing.
You know, the end of the movie was great.
You know, the end of the movie was great. Again, notice I went a little lower. End of the movie was great.
Oh, what have you seen today?
Oh, what you see today? Oh, what you see today?
I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it.
I'll tell you, but I'm sure you're not into it.
Okay, it's getting late and we better get going.
Okay, it's getting late, and we better get going. Another thing too. Notice what I did with there on late. Like it's getting late. It's getting late. It's like kind of that rising intonation. Just let your listener know it's not just that it's getting late, but there's also something else. So it lets them know that there's more information about to come.
We don't want to make mom angry.
We don't want to make mom angry. And again, that's just an alternative way of reading that last part. So yeah, some ideas to kind of play around with pitches, some ideas on linking, especially with like of the, even a little bit of grammar. Yeah, those are kind of the things that stand out to me right now. Sycamore, thank you for sending that file. We do appreciate it. We are here now looking at pronunciation files. And, you know, another thing I just want to make sure is clear is that, you know, pronunciation, sometimes people think pronunciation or improving pronunciation, and they're like, oh, it has to be, you know, expensive and costly and things like that. And I think, you know, that's one of our goals with our page and our channel is to demonstrate, no, there are many options. There's no reason that you need to pay to change or make adjustments to your pronunciation or expand your accent. Okay. There's so many resources that you can do and do very well on your own. So that's part of the reason why we have the channel, you know. But there's also lots of other options too if you're looking for more kind of hand holding and more assistance in that. So for instance, we have a Telegram group, which you pay $5 a month, and we do pronunciation corrections every single day of the week. We have Mission English, which is basically a private Facebook group where we do live streams every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. We do 2 live streams. In fact, this is our schedule for Mission English. We do 2 live streams a day, and you can actually join me on screen. So, for instance, like I'm here and you're like over there, and then we get to talk and like do exercises together. So that's another option that we have. Again, this is the schedule. All these times are based on New York. So, for instance, if 1:30 p.m. New York time works well for you, well, we meet at that time on Monday, meet at that time on Tuesday, meet at that time again on Friday. Or maybe you like that 9:30 a.m. New York time, where we do that on Tuesday, we do that on Wednesday, and we do that on Friday as well. So lots of different opportunities there with Mission English. And of course, we also have private classes. And the last thing that we mentioned too, I just want to make sure everyone is aware of because the price on this is about to change. It's about to get doubly as expensive. Is our first video course, which again is called 4-Step American Accent. It walks you through the 4 things that you need to sound more natural in American English. It does not have anything to do with where do you put your tongue and how wide your mouth is. Um, because look, American English has 44 sounds, right? And that's a lot of sounds. So you want to memorize 44 mouth positions? My own position is, hey, let's actually just kind of study 4 things that, if you apply it to everything you say, will help you get a much more natural accent. So again, it's called 4-step American accent. You can find it at fluentamerican.com. It goes over placement, breath, pitch, and vowel sounds. And it's also about to become twice as expensive. So this is the time to get it.
I thought the acting was generally good all around. There was clearly work put into the dialogue and character interactions. It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well. And I'm interested to see more, and I'd definitely be checking it out as episodes release.
Okay, this is Emmanuel. And, Emmanuel, if you guys have been with us for a while, you guys have just kind of heard the steps Emmanuel has been taking with his pronunciation for some time now. Really trying to push that. At first, it was with kind of just sounding a little bit less, almost like mumbly, like a lot of things were kind of flowing together. And so he's like really been working on incorporating a lot more pitches to add more contrast. And um, yeah, it's just been fun to watch. Also a member of our Mission English program too. He's a great person to ask about that. Rosaura says that during Texas. Hey, we used to live in Texas. My wife and I were in San Antonio for a couple years. She was teaching down there. I'm a UTSA alum. Go Roadrunners. Okay, so this is the actual. I want to go up here because the text is huge. As this is the original audio. I mean the text, the transcript for what he was saying. Okay. Um, okay, so that's kind of something to keep in mind. Or is ours in Austin? Yeah, Austin's a super popular place to be nowadays. Lots of friends in Austin. Don't tell anyone, and you can boo me for saying this, but I like San Antonio more than Austin. But it's okay. You can boo me. It's okay. I understand. Everyone loves Austin. I understand, but I definitely prefer San Antonio. Austin is just a little too much for me. Let's listen to the first part of this and kind of get some ideas for what the feedback we want to give.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
I really like the amount of pitch and contrast that you have. And again, in case you're not sure what was being said, Rosado likes the river. Yes, it is. We actually live so close to the Riverwalk. Not like the downtown portion, but like if you like go up the Riverwalk towards like the Pearl Brewery, like for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. On a bike, it's like 10 minutes. Walking is going to take longer, obviously, but that whole part, we lived there right when they had like just finished a lot of that. Yeah, it was. That's my favorite part of it. I mean, the downtown part's cool, like the touristy part's cool too, with all the restaurants and stuff. But the other parts are a lot quieter. Kind of by where they have like there's like a lock and dam that they have. That's really cool. Um. Anyways,
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
thought the acting was really good all around. The only thing that to me sounds a little bit off here.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
For good, I thought the acting was generally good all around. Notice how good is pronounced here.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
You can really hear that gus and you can really hear that D, right?
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
Was generally good all around. Was generally good all around versus was generally good all around. So the thing that we want to emphasize is something again we talk about in the 4-step accent course is that we want to emphasize vowel sounds. We don't want to emphasize consonant sounds. Because when we emphasize consonant sounds, we end up with a sentence that just ends up being a little bit choppier. So instead of saying good all around or good all around, good all around, so I would focus more on the vowel. Okay. That might be a phrase too, just like good all around. You might want to put that in the English and kind of see how other people are saying that. Just give you some other takes. Maybe some people are also doing heavier consonant sounds, but in general, I would say go heavier on the vowel and weaken the D sound. Also, I want to hear more of that sound as well because it's kind of getting lost.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
Yeah, because it definitely stands out as being a little choppier, especially because like it sounds like you're stressing acting.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
Thought the acting was generally good all around.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
Yeah, because like acting seems to me like it's the word that you want to stress, which is fine. I'm okay with stressing that. So we don't need good to stand out at all. Okay, so I would really weaken that.
Do scholarly work put into the dialogue and
Let's hear that. There was clearly work. So again, in case you are following along but need the text, you can see the thought the acting was generally good all around. There was clearly work. Listen to that part again.
do scholarly work put into the dialogue and generally good all around. Do scholarly work put into the dialogue and
There's clearly. I do think the R's could be a little softer. I feel like there was clearly. I'll focus on that little phrase. That can be a tricky one to say. There was clearly.
scholarly work put into the dialogue good all around. Do scholarly work
Again, because like you can just hear the consonants kind of taking over a little bit. There was clearly work. There was clearly work versus there was clearly work. There was clearly work. So try and get the vowels, the breath to keep flowing. And I think the R sounds are kind of hurting that a little bit.
do scholarly work put into
Clearly versus clearly, ear. Those are the sounds you want to really emphasize. The eerie sound.
the dialogue and character
It's your dialogue as well.
put into the dialogue and
Into the dialogue.
do scholarly work put into the dialogue and
Dialogue versus dialogue. I think my ah sound on log, dialogue. I think my ah sound is more open than yours. Because I feel like yours is kind of becoming like dialogue, log versus log, log. I feel like mine's just getting a little bit more air through.
work put into the dialogue and character interaction
And character into the dialogue and characters interactions. Edward's checking in. 6 a.m. in Israel. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad you woke up. Thanks for making us a part of your commute. I applaud you for that. um, hopefully, we can go through some things that are helpful for you or get you some things to think about today as you're off to work. Wait, in Israel, do they work on Sundays? I know that kind of sounds like Saudi Arabia. I know this was it Friday and Saturdays are the day off. Anyways, let me hear that again.
dialogue and character interactions. So to the dialogue and character interactions.
Into the dialogue and character interactions. I would stress character more. Because it sounds like you're stressing interactions, but I would stress character. Into the dialogue and character interactions.
Dialogue and character interactions.
Character interactions. That makes it sound like interactions getting stressed, but I would stress character and character interactions.
Put into the dialogue and character interactions. So
So this is another thing there in terms of stress. Next point.
a believable premise that I think was set up well.
It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well.
And character interactions. It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well.
It was set up well. Set up well. Again, I would listen if you're shadowing. I would listen to the original audio. Setup is a phrasal verb. You're stressing set. I would stress up. Set up well. Set up well. Set up well. You're stressing set.
Actions. It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well.
Set up well versus set up well. So I would shift the stress there for the phrasal verb. But the other thing too is again kind of similar point where I think some of your consonant sounds are kind of closing off your breath.
It's a very believable
Believable versus believable, dark L sounds. So again, when you have that all sound at the end of a word, very typically what happens is the back of your tongue's a little high, front of your tongue is down. You can open your mouth a little wider, more believable. Okay, that's just a note there.
And character interactions. It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well.
Yeah, so take a look at my notes there on believable and set up well.
And I'm interested to see more. And I'm interested to see more. And I think it was set up well. And I'm interested to see.
And I'm interested. It sounds to me a little bit like for interested, that first syllable, kind of getting into that in, like, and I'm interested versus I'm interested. We're like a little more short eye.
Was set up well. And I'm interested to see more.
But I do like the pitches. And I'm interested to see more. Maybe even on more. You could even go higher if you want.
And I'm interested to see more.
I'm interested to see more. I'm interested to see more. Um, I like what you're doing. I don't think anything you're doing is wrong. I would just say if you want to kind of push yourself even more, you could go higher on more. I'm interested to see more. Yeah, I'm interested to see more.
And I'm interested to see more, and I'd definitely be checking it out as episodes release. More, and I'd definitely be checking it.
And I'll definitely be checking it out. And I'll definitely be checking it out. I think you could have played around with some of the pitches here again, and I'll definitely be checking it out. And I'm interested to see more, and I'll definitely be checking it out. And I'll definitely be checking it out.
And I'm interested to see more, and I'd definitely be checking it out as
Because you can definitely be checking it out. Maybe that's how they were doing in shadowing, if that's what you were doing. And I'll definitely be checking it out versus I'll definitely be checking it out. I think a lot of times when definitely appears, it is the word that gets the stress. Not always, but a lot of times. So I think that's part of the reason why I'm doing it that way. That's not to say the way you're doing it is wrong. And I'm definitely
interested to see more, and I'd definitely be checking it out.
and I'll definitely be checking it out. Versus I'll definitely be checking it out. I'll definitely be checking it out. It's just maybe it's just me, but that pattern that you're using with definitely, I just to me doesn't feel like the most frequent.
To see more, and I'd definitely be checking it out.
I'll definitely be checking it out. Versus I'll definitely be checking it out. I'll definitely be checking it out. Notice a little lower on out, maybe, or I'll definitely be checking it out. Heavier emphasis on definitely. So I'll just kind of play around with those patterns. If you were shadowing, I'd be curious to see what they did because my guess is there's a slight difference
As episodes release.
as episodes release. As episodes release.
Checking it out as episodes release.
It's kind of hard because the audio kind of fades, but it kind of sounds like what you're doing is like as episodes release, or versus I'd use more of a fall as episodes release, because it is kind of the end. So I would kind of make it sound like it's the end, but that's the nitpicky thing. But yeah, I like your range of pitches. You're doing some great things with pitch here.
I thought the acting was generally good all around.
I thought the acting was generally good all around. Good.
There was clearly work put into the dialogue and character interactions.
Like there was clearly work put in the good.
It's a very believable premise that I think was set up well.
It's a very believable premise. I think was set up well. Uh, Kind of what we talked about in Mission English a bit. I know a lot of you were in Mission English. One of the things we talk about with thought groups is that when you have a thought group, each thought group has kind of its own pitch register attached to it. So I start here with one thought group, but maybe the next thought group is going to go here, and the next one might go a little lower. So I could just hear those three shifts I just made. So I think that you could play around some of the shifting in this part.
Believable premise that I think was set up well.
The believable premise that I think was set up well. We're all kind of staying in that same pitch range, right? A believable premise that I think was set up well. It's like you're maybe just taking a step lower or a step higher.
And I'm interested to see more, and I'd definitely be checking.
So that part there, you did go higher, and I'm interested to see more. So you took everything, you calibrated it, and set it higher. So I like that.
As episodes release.
Yep. But again, lots of kind of things to chew on there. Emmanuel, thank you for sending that file. I do appreciate you as always.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Schwa Mill Show. Elton is with you. Who else would you expect, right? I love it. I love it. I love this show. The more I'm on it, the better I feel because I'm talking to you, and you.
That's great, man. Hey, golf clap for the radio show. Yeah, let's use that. Okay. Some things here. Everyone's pushing themselves. We got Manuel pushing the stress. Then we got the pitches. Elton's doing the same thing.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Schwa Mill Show.
I don't have a whole lot to say there. I like the some nice range of pitches. Really trying to play around and not sound flat. Things are going high. Things are going low, which is all the things that you need just to kind of demonstrate that.
Hey, everybody, and welcome.
Hey, everybody, and that drop on and is so important because that allows the welcome to really pop off. And this is, some nice, just from like a show perspective, that's some nice energy to start something with. That's great.
To another episode.
To another edition. That's great. With that rising intonation, supernatural sounding. I like it.
Of the Schwa Mill Show.
Another edition of the Schwa Mill Show. That's a very, I like that. Another edition of what? Of this. And that's again a very, that drop off at the end. This. Schwa Mill Show. That's a very nice progression there.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Schwa Mill Show.
I want to hear episode again.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the
I'm just being very, very nitpicky there. I do think that O sound could get a little bit more breath through and say like episode versus episode. See if you can hear that. Maybe it's just me, but to me, mine sounds like it's more open. Episode.
Welcome to another episode.
Very nitpicky though. Okay, so notice one thing I want you to pay attention to is again kind of just a register of thought groups. So our first one, we're kind of calibrated here, like trying to get my hands to match. Okay, it's like Elchin is with you, and then notice what's going to happen next is in our next thought group, everything's going to drop.
Who else would you expect, right?
Elchin is with you. Who else would you expect, right? Elchin is with you. Who else would you expect, right? So that again, that sort of shifting is extremely common in American English. I like it a lot.
Elton is with you. Who else would you expect, right?
And also kind of makes like a joke, like, "Hey, I'm here. Who else would be here? Like, who else would be here?" You know. So I like that aspect of it. Very natural.
With you. Who else would you expect, right? Elton is with you. Who else would you expect, right? I love it. I love this show. The more.
Love can be a tricky word with the schwa sounds. So again, it's not love. It's more love. Let's see how he's doing.
I love it. I love this show.
Pretty good. You know, this is something we've been working on with Elchin too. You guys can hear him in past episodes of Schwa Mill. I feel like when you first started coming, a little heavy on the consonant sounds, and things like that. But this is sounding a lot more open and things. Thanks to Rosaura for checking in. Always great to see you, miss. We'll see you around the page in the channel.
I love it. I love this show. The more I'm on it, the better I feel because I love this show. The more.
Kind of similar there with show, what I mentioned earlier for episode. Just trying to get a little more, just as I'm talking very minor things, very nitpicky. Just a little bit more breath through on that O sound on show.
The more I'm on it, the better I feel because I'm talking to you.
The better I feel, the more I'm on it,
I love this show. The more I'm on it, the better I feel because I'm.
the better I feel. Another option. This doesn't say what you did is wrong. I'm just talking about alternatives. Another stress you could have put on feel. Like the more I'm on it, the better I feel.
I'm talking to you, and you.
Some of those first U's were a little bit closed off.
The better I feel because I'm talking to you, and
you versus you. Talking to you. So again, very minor thing. I don't think this is a problem. It's just something that you may want to listen for and see if you can, listen for it and see if you agree with me, or if you're like, nah, Geoff, I think it's already pre-open. You're crazy, and that's fine because I am crazy, so I'm okay with that. I just think you could get a little bit more breath through on that ooh sound on you. But those are going to be my big suggestions there. We don't have a transcript for this one, so that's why I'm not showing the text on screen. But in general, yeah, some great things here for everyone to kind of take is just kind of paying attention to the pitches and the range of pitches and the shifting.
Oh my lord.
Lots of breath there. I like the Lord. That again can be a tricky sound with the L and the R, but I think you're doing a good job of keeping things open here with lots of breath moving. So nice work there on Lord.
Oh my lord. We're grateful to you as the creator and God of all the worlds.
Everything I liked about Lord, I do feel like on worlds we're kind of losing.
As the creator and God of all the worlds.
That worlds, like we do feel like we're kind of closing off and tensing up a bit on that RLD. Sounds like worlds versus worlds. Might help to just keep the front of your tongue down and also open your mouth a little wider. Worlds, and God of all the worlds. God of all the worlds. You could also play around with stress. I mean, for instance, you could stress worlds. That's fine. You could also instead stress all. And God of all the worlds. And God of all the worlds. So you could also stress God. So you're kind of picking, deciding what stress you want. If you want to stress worlds, then that's fine too. The only thing is that again, when you stress worlds, you want to make sure that you're staying open enough because it's a stress word, it's going to stand out more. Whereas if you stress God or if you stress all, well, that gives you more flexibility with reductions, right? So then worlds just becomes less important, like God of all the worlds, God of all the worlds versus God of all the worlds. You know, in that last one, worlds is going to stand out more. So if you're not pronouncing it with enough air or things like that, it's going to stand out even more. So just a note there on something to be mindful of.
and God of the all worlds.
Yeah, it just gets very jumbled there. God of all the worlds. Part of the other reason too is that this sentence is a little flat in terms of tone.
We're grateful to you as the creator and God of the all worlds.
You know, we're constantly using like the same group of pitches over and 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 over. So we're never giving ourselves a chance to build contrast. And from an American English perspective, you're making it harder on your listener because when that happens, when there's not enough contrast, words start linking together and it becomes harder to distinguish where does one word stop and where does the next word start. So this is really why it is so key to have contrast. And it's hard to like Shok. I know you do a lot of kind of like literary stuff or kind of bring in some of that drama background, which is great. So it could be for effect for this. Maybe the design is to have everything sound really flat, you know, and that's fine. But this then we do want to be aware of. Okay, if we're going to limit the pitches that we're using intentionally, then we really need to make sure everything's sounding really clear. Otherwise, things are going to get jumbled. And to me, things are getting a little bit jumbled or kind of combining with each other in a way that makes it difficult for me to understand in that of all the worlds part.
We're grateful to you as the creator and God of the all worlds.
Like after God, it just I have the text here, so that certainly is helpful. But like if you just told that to me like on the street, I would probably need you to repeat that to me like once or twice to get oh God of all the worlds.
You can hear our prayers and praises.
A little tense there on prayers and praises, especially in the second syllables. Prayers and praises versus prayers and praises. A lot of times prayers is treated as one syllable as opposed to two. Instead prayers or just prayers. Just a note.
And praises. You can hear our prayers and praises.
Though some people, I will say, some people do separate prayers into two parts. So it's not necessarily wrong. Just kind of something to consider. Praises, watch out for the second syllable. A little more short I says praises, more praises, praises.
In this severe climate.
Severe. I want to hear climate. I like severe.
In this severe climate.
Climate. Climate. Climate. Climate. Climate.
In this severe climate.
Maybe I don't hear things. Maybe it's okay.
Severe climate. As your.
You know, one thing that maybe severe climate. Let me hear it one last time.
In this severe climate.
Climate. One thing you could try doing too is weakening the M sound. So the climate, more climate, climate. It's like climate, climate. Let's try and go weak on the M.
As your mercy.
Mercy is fine. You'll hear some people pronouncing it that way in North America. That's fine. A way that's probably a little bit more frequent though is going to be more mer. It's like mercy. So say as your mercy, more as your mercy, mer.
Expanded everywhere.
You know, I guess I was expecting a little bit more E, like everywhere, everywhere,
Mercy expanded everywhere.
everywhere, everywhere. So it gets very reduced down the E sound, which works. I think you can find people that do that. But another option would be getting a little bit more E at the end there, like everywhere, everywhere. It's everywhere. That's just an option there as well. Shog, if there's specific things, if you're watching, and there's specific things that I have not touched on, be sure to let me know. But those are kind of things that are standing out to me the most. I would, depending on if it's appropriate for the piece. So, like, if you're doing this, for a recital or a play or something like that, and you need it to sound more monotone, okay, I totally understand. Otherwise, I would really try to consider adding a wider variety of pitches for the first sentence. Um, I would say watch out prayers and praises. Just trying to keep things open towards the ends of those words. Um, Climate, I would say, hey, can you even get that M sound slightly weaker? Mercy, we talked about mercy versus mercy. Um, and everywhere getting that E sound in the middle just a little bit sharper. But thank you for sending that file. I, as always, appreciate it.
It is always darkest before the dawn.
Oh, it has there's some like inspirational music in the background.
It is always darkest before the dawn.
Okay, it's like one quick little guitar riff.
It is always darkest before the dawn.
Cool. I think the very biggest thing that's going to jump out to me is the word dawn. I'm just imagining this is a typo, but again, make sure that you're just spelling dawn. Okay. But besides that, so dawn, I would try to do this progression and just to see if you can do the same thing as me. If you can, great. And if you can't, then this gives you an exercise to practice. So start off just saying an aw sound. You do like aw, and see if you can do that 3 times, like ah ah ah. And if you can, that's great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a D sound to that. You do like ah da ah da ah da ah da ah da ah da. And the goal is to make sure that even as you're adding that D sound, the vowel is not shifting; it's staying the same sound throughout. So ah da ah da ah da. And let's go in the opposite direction too. Let's make sure that we can do an ah sound that links with an N. Can you do like ah on ah on ah on ah on ah on ah on? Okay. If you find that you're doing like on on, well, that's a sign that we're shifting our vowel sound a little bit, and that's not our goal. Our goal is to try to get that same sound throughout. On. Okay. And then if you feel like that's not happening and everything's sounding good, then we can put it all together. It's like on on dawn. So I would practice that progression to see what's going on specifically. Because right now, when I'm hearing dawn,
Always darkest before the dawn.
dawn, yeah, what I'm hearing there is I'm definitely hearing one. I'm not hearing an aw sound. I'm hearing a different vowel on versus on, an aw sound. And the other thing I'm hearing is that there is some vowel shifting going on right before that N sound. So just make sure your vowel's staying the same, even as it links to that N. Besides that,
It is always darkest before the dawn.
it is always darkest before the dawn. So another thing too is we talked a lot about stress today, and let's continue to keep that going here. So you're putting a lot of weight on always.
It is always darkest before.
It is always darkest. Okay, so you're stressing always. I think you're stressing always even more than darkest. So I would go even more hardcore into that. So let's stress always. Let's not stress darkest. It is always darkest. Can you go down more on darkest? Can you lower that pitch more just to kind of add more contrast? It is always darkest. Or if your intention was to stress always, or if your intention was to stress darkest, then go lower on always and go higher on darkest. It's like it is always darkest. It is always darkest. So this is kind of something to pay attention to there. Um, Whichever feels the most comfortable to you.
It is always darkest before the dawn.
Before the dawn. Before the dawn. And the other thing too is that so before it sounds like it's getting a lot of weight as well.
Always darkest before the dawn.
Before the dawn. That because notice on before you're going up pretty high on that 4 syllable. Before the dawn. And that's having the effect of making it sound like you're stressing that word.
It is always darkest before the dawn.
Before the dawn versus before the dawn. Before the dawn. If you want to stress dawn. Okay, but again, it sounds like you're stressing before. Um, but another thing that I would consider playing around with here too is let's maybe just have one stressed word, you know. So maybe just stressing always. It is always darkest before the dawn. It is always darkest before the dawn. Or you can stress darkest. It is always darkest before the dawn. Or maybe you want to stress dawn. It is always darkest before the dawn. It is always darkest before the dawn. So kind of playing around with the stresses. And what you're going to find is that by just having one stressed word, it's going to give you a lot more room to kind of play around with pitches. So it's going to increase your range because things are going to have to go higher or things are going to have to go lower. So it's going to add even more contrast to what you're saying. Okay. So those are going to be my big suggestions there. Please let me know if anything there isn't clear. But thank you so much for sending a file. We hope to see you in a future edition of the Schwa Mill next Saturday. Okay, stop sharing just for a quick moment because we do have a good question here. Hi Native. Do we think Hi Native is a good app? I have very limited experience with Hi Native. They reached out to me. So there was a time when I was doing some live streams of the Schwa Mill actually with Hi Native was actually paired onto it too. Like I was signed on to there and on YouTube. I'll be honest, I haven't used it from a language learning perspective. On the one hand, I mean, it sounds nice, right? Because you're doing a lot of interaction with native speakers. You can ask questions, people give you feedback and things like that. I mean, I'll put it this way. If I were going back to like a language learning app, I would probably go back to just like Hello Talk. That was the one that I was able to find people on to communicate with back when I had time and things like that. Didn't have a 4-year-old and things. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I think any app can work. I mean, these are tools, but I think that the other thing to consider is that just make sure that's not the only thing that you're doing. Just make sure that there's other things that you're doing as well. And I think that's going to really help you to make sure that you're really seeing growth and things like that. Try it for a couple weeks, and kind of check for yourself. Do you feel like you're growing, or do you feel like you're not growing? It is nice that they do have those live stream features that people can like check in and things like that. So that could be cool to do. And I encourage everyone, if you're practicing a language, everyone should be doing videos or blogs or vlogs in the language that you're studying. Like, why not? You don't have to show them to anyone, but keep it private. But I think those would be great tools. Mr. Go Big Go Home asks, what is Hello Talk about? It's mostly just, I mean, they have some exercises and things you can do, but it's mostly just finding other people who speak the language that you're studying and trying to talk with them. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I think in general for women, it can be a slightly more challenging app to use just because guys are kind of crazy. I don't know why, just like guys hitting on girls that are thousands of miles away from them and have no interest. But if you can find the right people on Hello Talk to communicate with, I think it can be a very rewarding experience. The times I've used it, I was able to get into some involved groups where people are really interested in equal language exchanging and things like that. Yeah. Let's go big go home asks, guys use it for dating. I mean, it's yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. There's a similar app too called Tandem. And I think on Tandem that happens even more. I think in general Hello Talk's a little more serious. But yeah, I think for a lot of these applications and things, I think the experience for men is a little different than the experience for women. But you guys can share with me what your guys' thoughts on that are. I think that wraps up everything on my end, though. If you guys have other questions and things that you think of in the future, be sure to let me know. If you're watching in the replay, you can also leave a comment. And if you want to help out this stream because you found this helpful, some things that you can do: liking the stream, subscribing to the channel, sharing with a friend who you know is also studying American English. These are all different things that you can do to help me out, and I will be immensely grateful for it. But once more, my name is Geoff. This is Fluent American, specifically through the Schwa Mill, our Saturday show. We'll help you craft your accent. Thank you for your time, guys. I do appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon.